Now we've reached the fun part of Lightroom's library and catalogue system, because we need to see just how we need to go about searching for the images we need. Are our keywords adequate? Are the labels we've applied correct? Well, let's find out. When it comes to Lightroom's catalogue, the library system and doing searches, you're going to make a few errors. My advice is just be patient, and it will all come good as your familiarity with the software increases, which it will very quickly. Remember that the number of keywords we apply to our images is a personal choice. If you don't shoot a large number of images, then perhaps it makes some sense to spend a little more time at the import stage adding a number of different keywords. Let's look at just one or two suggestions that could be used in this instance. Let's look at this image here. When I select this image, if we look over into the keyword list, I can see by the tick alongside the word Foster that we've already got the keyword attached to this image of Foster. Let me make this thumbnail a little bigger so we can see it. But look what we have within the image. What the image contains is going to largely determine the keywords we may use. So if we were looking for a comprehensive range of keywords for this particular image, what would we choose? Some of them could be doubled up, so we would select a number of images and apply keywords, but some images may require an individual approach. But let's just think of what we may add as a keyword here. We know we've already got Foster. We can see that in the keyword list on the right. That's why that image is ticked. When I highlight it, it's telling me keyword Foster. But we could also add creek to the keywords because that's where it was shot. It was shot at sunset, so we could add sunset too. It contains wildlife, so we could use the word wildlife, but we could also use bird. The birds in flight. Do we shoot enough birds that we want to distinguish those that are in flight from those that aren't? In which case we can add flight as a keyword. The bird is also a silhouette, so we could add silhouette, and of course we're looking at water. Now they're just the first few off the top of my head. We've added 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 keywords to our original Foster. Now of course if I wanted to apply those keywords, I would go across to my keywording option, and you can see the tag Foster, but a couple of the options that I've chosen as potentials here are already located here. We've already used them before. So I'm going to click wildlife and it'll be applied automatically, and I'm going to click birds. But the other ones I'd have to type in. Oh, there's one other, silhouette. So you can see how we can speed the process up sometimes, and of course the more comprehensive our list is, the more we'd have to choose from. But now I think I'd be resigned to putting a comma in there and adding the other keywords. Now many of the suggestions that I've just taken a few seconds to type in would be applicable to the other images. So I can copy them there if I want to. If I go back to that original, I can click and drag and hit Ctrl+C on the keyboard. I could go to this image and I could say click and drag and Ctrl+V, and I can paste all of those in. Now the only one I probably wouldn't want there is the one that says flight, because there's no birds in flight. So if I just edited that and took flight out, leaving only one comma, then I can click and drag, Ctrl+C. Now I could select any number of images which contain a similar content, and I could paste them over the top of others. So there are ways we can speed up the process of adding keywords. Now if you shoot lots of images, then perhaps you may choose to keep your keywords a little more basic, as we did in our earlier demonstrations, but it all depends on how much time an individual is willing to spend doing this. There's no rights or wrongs here at all. But let's turn our attention now to the physical search. When we're searching, we must make sure that we have the right catalogue identified, particularly if we've got a number of catalogues created. There's no point in searching for a keyword of April if we're looking in the 2013 catalogue rather than the 2014 one. 2013 may not have had an April keyword applied, and therefore we're going to find nothing. From time to time, something unexpected is going to happen. You're going to do a search for images that you've searched a number of times before, so you know the search parameter is right and you know the images are there, and yet you get a message, no images can be found. Don't panic, stop, sit back and take a breath. It's very likely because you've got the wrong search criteria in the parameters at the top of the screen, not that the images have mysteriously disappeared. Once you're sure you have the correct catalogue selected, and in our case it's our 2014 RAW catalogue, make sure you identify the folder where you want Lightroom to search from. If you don't have the relevant folder selected, once again your search will not find what you're looking for. Let me show you what I mean. We've been looking at these images quite a bit over the previous videos, and we know we've got a batch of images where we placed a keyword of World War I. I'm going to go up to the top of my screen and I'm going to choose text and I'm going to do a search. I'm going to search for any searchable field. I'm going to leave that set to contains all, but in here I'm going to put the keyword that I applied to those images, World War I. When I hit the enter key, well, you can see what's happened. I didn't even need to hit the enter key. The machine is one jump ahead of me. No photos match the filter, and yet we've seen them a number of times as we've been going through our videos. So what's happened here? Look over to the left because the clue is under that heading of Photography G. Look at the folder I currently have highlighted on the left hand side. Let me go back to all photographs and I'll jump back to the one I had selected. There's the folder I had selected. If we look over to the right hand side, we can be reminded that the keyword that we've applied to these was the location, Nambucca. The only thing that's in that folder is the Nambucca images, so it's no surprise when we think about it that the World War I scans are not going to be found. So if we're going to start a search, sometimes if we've got thousands of images within a catalogue and we know the images that we're looking for were shot within the catalogue of images or the folder of images which we named Nambucca, then that's fine. But in our case here, my search parameter should have started from the top. And now when I do the same search, it's going to be looking in all of those folders and not just the one I inadvertently selected. So if we try that again, well, there you can see the result is instant, because as soon as I open the parameter under the heading of text, the previous search criteria is going to remain there until I hit the cross to remove it. So instantly it's picked up what I'm looking for, and now we're searching in the right location. There we have all of our World War I images. Let's try that again, leaving our selection parameter set to the 2014 catalogue. I can go back up here, I can hit the cross to remove World War I, and I can retype something else, and I believe we called some of them Sydney. And there you can see sometimes even before you finish typing the word, then the selection has been made and they've been presented to us. So when would we start to go into these drop-down menus and choose something else? Well, I guess if we've been using our catalogue for some time and we now have thousands of images within that catalogue, what can happen sometimes when you do a search is it actually throws up more images than you can really cope with. And in that case, what we need to do, and this is a familiar word we often see around the internet and on software programs, we need to refine the search. So we need to tell the software, okay, don't look in the entire 2014 catalogue, look in these two folders or this particular folder, or we can choose a slightly different search criteria to narrow things down. We can also choose to be specific. We can contain all or contain some, contains words, doesn't contain, lots of options there, but most of them are going to work quite well with the options you can see currently in the parameters, and we've demonstrated that with a couple of examples. Let's take a look at attribute next. Now when I select attribute, what you'll notice is the text will remain highlighted. So what I can choose to do is turn off the text search and search purely with attribute, or I can add attribute to the text. Let me show you what I mean by clicking attribute and leaving the text highlighted. What it enables me to do is to search the criteria Sydney, but what I can also do is say, show me the images that I flagged, or I have 3 stars or 5 stars, and in my case a green label. Now because I've pre-labelled this in green, all it's showing me is one particular image in green, because what it's doing is looking for the text criteria first, so it's looking in the folders for all of the images with the keyword Sydney, but from those it's now just looking at the Sydney images to show me those with a flag. Now I've still got my 2014 catalogue highlighted correctly on the left side, but if I remove the text option now by turning it off, now the search parameter is looking in all of the folders and it's picking up all of the images that I've previously given a green label, and of course it follows I could have used stars and or flags. So remember, when you're going from one filter system to another, for example going from attribute to metadata, we have to remember to turn off one if we don't want that to be included, because all the metadata that's going to be shown to us is only going to be shown to us for these 4 images which have been found via attribute. So just for a moment I'm going to click None. Now let's take a look at the metadata option at the top of the screen. I think for this it may be a good idea if I select another folder of images. So if I select this one that has 72 images, I can see by looking over to the right hand side that this was shot, or these images were shot at Coffs Harbour, and we can see 1 or 2 other keywords as well which we spoke about recently. If I go to the metadata here, we get a number of interesting options. Now at a single glance we can see that we've got quite a bit of information here. 72 images, 41 of them are birds, 41 of them are also wildlife. Well, we know where it's getting that information from the keywords, which is the label up there. But here, look, it's showing me which camera was used to take these shots. Now, that may not be entirely relevant if you've only got one camera, but I now shoot with 2 cameras because I've got one converted for infrared. So there are times when if I wanted to sort out infrared images anywhere, I would just need to click the second camera, which would show up there, and perhaps I'll demonstrate that in a few moments. But here's another useful option. I could select just the images that were shot with a 16:35 2.8 wide angle zoom. When I select that, you can see we get just the images shot with that particular lens. And of course we've got all the labels showing as well. So out of those, if I want to just show the green ones, up they pop. Remember a few moments ago we created a number of keywords on one particular image to demonstrate how involved we can get if we wish. The image was taken at Foster and we added creek, sunset, wildlife, bird and a few others. What I'm going to do for a moment to test out the theory here is to go back to the root of my 2014 catalogue. By the root I mean I'm going back to the start, so any search I do is going to be my entire 2014 raw catalogue. If I go to the text options here, I can leave these the same as before, but I can put my keyword tag in here to search for it. When I do so, it tells me that no photos match the filter. This is a typical mistake which I find I make myself quite often. And of course, if we sit back and think about what we've done, we never used the keyword flying, we actually used the keyword flight. If I just backspace and change that, our image pops up. So I'm sure you can see that the introduction of keywords, the searching for them and images in general, and the use of flags, stars and labels needs a degree of experience. So once again I emphasize the point, anytime anything goes wrong, sit back, take a deep breath. The answer to your search problem is probably there on screen in front of you. Now, one other option we have, if we've got a number of images that we want to add keywords to, and we find that over a period of time 3 or 4 keywords almost appear on every photo, then we can make a keyword set. Over on the right here we've got a custom option. If I use the drop down key here, I can choose to edit the set. Once I've done that, I can put a series of keywords in these boxes, and then I can save this as a new preset. So I can create something unique to me, and I can apply that to all of my images quickly and easily. Now I've just made a simple keyword set with the title of BB. So I would select the image I want to add the keywords to, and in our case it could be one or a number or a whole folder of images. And if I go to the drop down option here, you can see that I can see both of the keywords that I've applied. Barry Beckham is one, Beckham Digital is another. Look up at the keyword tags here. You can see there are all of those we added earlier on. So if I wanted to add some familiar ones that I need to add quite often, then I can just click them and they will appear as a keyword tag on one or as many images as I select. Now we can make as many of these sets as we wish, and there are some presets in there as well. You can see you've got one for outdoor photography. Let's take a quick look. There you can see some of the options there, and also for portrait photography too. But I think this is probably going to be more use for me with a preset that means something to me and my photography.